This is the small town of Dixon, Illinois, a place with such charming attractions as Ronald Reagan boyhood home and a street called Bloody Gulch Road. Don't worry, it's named after a brutal murder. In 2010, the town had only 15,733 residents, and over the course of 22 years, one of those residents stole over $53 million from the city. That resident is Rita Crundwell, and although her name sounds like she would be a professor at Hogwarts, she was actually the comptroller and treasurer of Dixon. Rita first began working for Dixon all the way back in high school, when she was a work-study student at the Dixon City Hall. She spent the 70s working as the secretary for the mayor of Dixon, and in 1983 she became the treasurer and comptroller. So at the age of 30, she was already the sole person in charge of all the finances for Dixon, Illinois. But the cornerstone of the local economy is the Dixon Correctional Center, so maybe one person could handle it. Still, it gave Rita the perfect opportunity to rob the people of this town. She started off small in 1988 by siphoning $25,000 from the Dixon Sister City program. So let's hope the folks in Thika, Kenya aren't strapped for cash. But the real theft began in 1990, when Rita Crundwell opened a bank account and named it the Reserve Sewer Capital Development Account. Then she began creating fake invoices for things supposedly benefiting the city. To pay these invoices, she would write checks payable to treasurer and deposit them directly into the Reserve Sewer Capital Development Account, in which she was the only signatory and could pull the money out as she pleased. And that's pretty much the entire scam. I know you were probably expecting something more advanced for a crime that went on for 22 years, but Rita heard about the phrase, "work smarter, not harder," and decided to do neither. Right out the gate, Rita was stealing a pretty sizable amount of money. In 1991, she siphoned $181,000 from the city's funds. But that was nothing compared to what she would go on to steal. As she kept getting away with it, Rita ramped up the amount of money she was taking. It peaked in 2008 when she stole a whopping $5.8 million from the city, a city which has an annual budget of $8 to $9 million, meaning she was potentially stealing over 72% of Dixon's entire budget. I guess the libertarians weren't joking when they said taxation is theft. Now you might be wondering what exactly Rita was spending these millions of dollars on. The answer, strangely, is racehorses. Particularly American quarter horses, named for their ability to sprint quarter miles incredibly quickly. Rita had an interest in quarter horses long before she started stealing, showing them as early as 1978. But once she got her hands on that Dixon cash, you better believe she was spending it on horses. Over the years, she established a horse empire through her company RC Quarter Horses LLC. At first, she added horse stables to the 7-acre property she had inherited from her mother. But by 2002, her operation was so big that she purchased an 88-acre ranch, which she called Rita's Ranch, for over $500,000. In 2006, she built a 19,000-square-foot horse barn that included an office and an arena. She filled that barn with her collection of quarter horses, which totaled 400 at its peak. And many of them were very successful, such as the 3-time AQHA World Champion horse, Good I Will Be. And I know that name sounds strange, but if you know anything about horse names, that's about as weird as a human being named John. But Rita's millions didn't just go to horses. She also bought herself multiple houses, several $100,000 worth of jewelry, and a $2.1 million 45-foot motorhome. Quite a lot of purchases for someone on an $80,000 salary. Kind of makes you feel like the residents of the town are partly to blame here for not picking up that she was stealing. But to talk about something that would pick up on stealing, I want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Aura. And no, this isn't a joke, I actually have a sponsor this time. I recently found myself in a strange situation when YouTube alerted me to a channel that had completely stolen my video on Turkmenistan's dictator. Everything about the video was the exact same, except that they had translated the entire thing and re-recorded the audio in Croatian. The crafty bastard even translated the text on the thumbnail. Obviously, it was not fun to see someone steal my work and try to make money off it. Now, luckily for me, the video only had 5 views. Probably helps that there's only a few million people in the world who even speak Croatian. But it certainly could have been much worse. Imagine someone doing this to your entire identity, stealing what's yours and using it for their own profit. That's where Aura comes in. Aura is an online security service that offers complete identity theft protection. They monitor your personal data across the internet, from public court records to the dark web, and help remove it when it's found. They'll even give you $1 million in identity theft insurance. Not to mention it comes with a VPN, antivirus protection, and 24/7 support. You get all that in one app at one affordable price. So if you don't want to leave yourself and your family vulnerable to data breaches and brokers, go to aura.com/agrainofsalt to try 2 weeks for free. That'll be enough time for Aura to find out if your personal data is exposed. Thanks again to Aura for sponsoring the video. Now, as Rita Crundwell continued stealing the majority of Dixon's funds, the city was naturally experiencing some consequences. With the budget being depleted, city employees would consistently go over 2 years without raises. City vehicles couldn't be replaced for decades, and the city police couldn't even afford new radios. The city also had to lay off 3 of its 9 street repair workers and limited how much maintenance could be done. As a result, the streets started falling into disrepair, with only 65 blocks being worked on in the last 10 years before Rita was caught. I just hope they were still able to maintain Bloody Gulch Road. Whenever anyone asked her about the funds, Rita's excuse was that the state of Illinois was late in paying the city its tax revenue, which would make me wonder why every city in the state wasn't also falling apart. Unless all the small-town treasurers were running the exact same scheme to fund a robust Illinois quarter-horse industry. In fact, Rita would sometimes make jokes about the budget cuts, as she would send the department heads memos featuring cartoon images like a pair of scissors cutting a $sign and a picture of a man drowning. Hope this emoji brings you comfort as we lay you off. Meanwhile, she was living in a house that looked like this. I know you can't buy taste, but I guess you can't steal it either. Pretty much everything Rita did clearly showed that she had to be stealing money. Even some of her horses' names were suspicious, such as Packin' Jewels, Have Faith in Money, Potential Fortune, and I Found a Penny. Sounds like you found a lot more than that, Rita. The actual embezzlement was pretty much the simplest thing imaginable, and she didn't even put a lot of effort into the fake invoices, which didn't match up with real invoices from the state. One of them even had the date November 31st, which is not a real day. These are rookie mistakes, Rita. But the people of Dixon had complete faith in her. In 2011, the city commissioners said that Rita, quote, looks after every tax dollar as if it were her own. And if you made a movie about this and put that in the script, everyone watching would roll their eyes. But Rita's scam eventually came to an end. In the fall of 2011, she went on a long vacation to attend more horse races. A city clerk took over for her while she was gone and asked the bank for all the accounts under the city's name instead of just the ones Rita told her to request. In the process, she stumbled upon the Reserve Sewer Capital Development account. And it didn't take long to notice that the city had a lot of money going into sewer development, and a lot of money going out of that account to buy things like a $225,000 horse named Pizzazzy Lady. So the city clerk alerted the mayor, who alerted the FBI. Over the next 5 months, the FBI built a case against Rita as she continued to deplete the city's money. And on April 17, 2012, Rita came to work and found FBI agents waiting for her. She was arrested and indicted by a federal grand jury. In a harrowing court case, the people of Dixon testified about their financial hardships while Rita was spending their money on the ugliest interior design you've ever seen. During the mayor's testimony, he quoted the "My kingdom for a horse" line from Shakespeare's Richard III. Maybe Rita got away with it for so long because the town was being run by a theater nerd. Before sentencing her, the judge told Rita, "You showed a much greater passion for the welfare of your horses than you did for the people of Dixon who you represented." For embezzling $53.7 million, Rita was sentenced to 19 years and 7 months in federal prison. She was also ordered to forfeit her assets to the government as a restitution to the city. But the government estimated that the sale of her assets would only amount to about $10 million, as she had spent millions on things that couldn't be recovered, like upkeep for the horses. Still, many of her 400 horses sold for a pretty penny, like the legendary Good I Will Be, who sold for $775,000. Unfortunately, he had to be put down in 2013 due to complications from a surgery, which brought us the incredible headline, "Good, I will be euthanized." Unsurprisingly, the residents of Dixon felt betrayed and embarrassed by Rita's actions. After all, they were humble small-towners, and this was really more of a big city crime. One resident was quoted saying, "We're a laughingstock. We're the town they took all the money from. We couldn't catch a woman for 20 years. And Lord knows I can relate to that last part. But the townsfolk weren't the only ones ignorant to the scheme, and there might have even been some people helping with it. The accounting firm Clifton Gunderson served as the auditors of Dixon's finances, so it would typically fall on them to detect theft. But investigations revealed that Rita was friends with several people on the firm, used the firm for her personal accounting, and even played on the Clifton Gunderson softball team in the 80s. But anyone who's seen that Crundwell curveball knows it was worth the conflict of interest. In 2005, regulations were changed to make it illegal for auditors to provide private services for the people they audited. But Clifton Gunderson was so eager to help Rita that they continued auditing for her and simply paid an accountant from another company to sign off on the reports. So the firm was forced to pay $35.1 million to Dixon for their negligence, which will certainly pay for a lot of road repairs. But there was a twist in Rita's story in August of 2021, when she was released to serve the rest of her term in home confinement, in this case her brother's farm. This was seemingly due to the COVID-19 pandemic, as certain prisoners were granted a transfer to home confinement if they were believed to be at risk. Although it seems the only disease she was at risk of catching is kleptomania. And in December of 2024, President Biden commuted the sentences of 1,500 people who had been granted home confinement during the pandemic, including good old Rita Crundwell. Meaning she ended up spending 3,093 days in prison and 1,226 days in home confinement. Not too shabby for the largest municipal fraud in the history of the United States. But I guess you can add a few more days to that sentence if you count November 31st. Now please consider subscribing, or I'll take you on a walk down Bloody Gulch Road.